How do we allow these people to teach our youth? This is a freaking joke. You guys have got to check this out.
Does it?
Yeah.
Where is socialism worked? Where is socialism worked?
You pay your income tax?
Income tax is not socialist.
It's not?
No. Well, I think it's way too high, isn't it?
Yeah, but socialism is where everybody pays in.
Why don't you, do you give more money than your income tax every year to the government?
What?
Do you give more than what the government asks you to give each year?
Yeah, I do.
You do?
A lot.
You give more to the government?
Yeah.
So you give more than what the IRS asks you to give?
Yeah.
You do?
Uh-huh.
Yeah, right.
So you think that, do you trust the government?
I don't take all the deductions that I'm entitled to.
Do you trust the government?
For what? Of course I do.
You do?
Yeah.
You trust the government that recklessly audits people they disagree with and runs inefficiently and has huge bureaucracies of
I have to
nothingness?
tell you something. I'm a retired federal employee, so I used to work for the government.
Which agency?
Department of Agriculture.
Okay. So do you think there's any waste in the food stamp allotment in the Department of Agriculture?
Yeah, definitely.
Oh, so you do think government is wasteful?
Well, we have to do something. We're not perfect.
Well, that's a horrible argument to spend trillions of dollars having to do something, isn't it? You just admitted you worked for the Department of Agriculture, which oversees the distribution of food stamps, right? And
Well,
you had
actually, what I did was I wrote
well, part of what the Department of Agriculture does
I did
is
payroll.
you did payroll for the Department of Agriculture.
Well, for most of the government.
Okay.
We wrote 700,000 paychecks twice a month.
So did you know of any government employees that were not very good at their job?
I knew a lot.
Did they get fired?
No, they hired contractors to do their work.
So, but did the government employees get fired
What? Some of
That-
them did.
for not doing their job?
Yeah.
I find that very hard to believe.
We had a lot of people that got fired.
It's very hard under civil service protection to lose your job in a government
very
bureaucracy.
easy.
Very difficult.
If you go to the MSPB, you'll see that they have 90% approval rate for dismissing people.
Do you think government is too big?
Yeah.
Okay, then you and I are in agreement. We agree that there's inefficiency, and so that's our whole argument.
I'm saying socialism is what our government's about.
No, it's not.
It's not.
Part of the worst parts of it might be, but I reject those parts of government.
What parts? Income tax, welfare.
Yeah, that would be a good start. Food stamps are too much. Housing, urban development, Department of Education.
What about Social Security?
I don't think young people should be forced into paying something we're not going to see. Social Security annualized growth rates are lackluster at best.
Yeah.
The government takes 7% of our generation's earnings to subsidize older Americans.
Have you seen the homeless problem?
That's
I've seen people that cannot
Sure.
work for a living, that have mental problems, or
yeah. I mean, I think there should be a safety net, but not a hammock. I think you'd agree with that.
socialism.
Define what you mean by socialism, though, because I think we might be
Take where everybody pays in together. Where everybody pays in for the common good.
for the common good. So.
Yeah. This university here, how many people could go to school here if it wasn't for the government paying for it? Nobody could pay for an education.
Sure, there's private institutions that exist. Sure, there are.
Yeah, but how do they work?
Quite well.
Because of donations. They work on socialism also.
So if your example of socialism is college tuition that rises every year, that is run widely inefficient, administrators that are unchecked, professors that should be fired, then you and I have the same definition of socialism, which is something that doesn't work. So here's the whole thing is I think government is far too big. It's gone outside of its constitutional intent and authority, and market-based solutions are far better for the well-being of its citizens than government bureaucracies are.
We are not a socialist nation by any means. We have some socialist policies, whether that be social security, food stamps, or anything like that. I'm just confused how this guy possibly thinks that's the better option to run a nation. Because in theory, it sounds amazing. Everyone chips in, does the right thing, everyone's supported, everyone's doing well. But when it comes down to brass tacks, that is not what's going to happen. What's going to happen is you're going to have a very lazy society, unproductive. The economy's going to tank. You need people producing. You need people wanting to actually earn more, because we're a capitalist country right now. And if you put in the work, you can become successful. That's the foundation of capitalism. But if we went to the socialist state like this guy's saying, then he's right. 99% of us would be equal. We would be equally poor.
Better on a localized level than a nationalized level?
What? Yeah, definitely.
Okay, so we agree. So localize more government programs. Don't federalize them.
But you still have to have government, even if it's at the local level.
Sure, I'm not an anarchist, and that's not socialism.
Okay, but my point was that nobody here could go to school if they had to pay for all the costs.
They do pay for it in tax. Somebody pays for it somewhere, whether it be taxes or the endowment or donations or tuition.
Yeah, I'm not. You know who actually pays for school here?
The taxpayers mostly.
The sports program.
Well, and taxpayers. It is a publicly funded school, I would imagine, right? I mean, it's a state school.
I have a friend who was admitted to the graduate school, got a full ride scholarship for 2 years as a graduate student. Study animation.
Okay.
So she wasn't paying a dime.
But somebody paid for it.
Yeah.
At some point. Nothing is free. Somebody's paying for something at some point of the transaction.
Right. If they had money, it was socialism that somebody paid for. A lot of people paid for it.
So I don't support that. I don't support other people being able to live on the well-being of the forced extraction of wealth from others. I believe for the paying of basic services, such as police and fire, roads and bridges on the most localized level possible, as well as the national military. Do I believe in the Department of Education? No. Department of Labor? No.
That's all socialism.
That's why I don't support it.
What, you don't believe that we should have roads? We should have private roads and people pay for them as they use them?
No, I believe as localized as you possibly can be. The Department of Transportation is a mess. It's widely inefficient. Doesn't work well at all. Yeah, so I mean, you're making my argument for me.
No, I'm not. I'm saying that we still have to have socialism, even if it isn't...
Okay, so you...
This guy is smart, but he's also dumb at the very same time. He can't connect the dots. Why do you think Catholic schools are better run than public schools? Because it's not federalized. Federal government does not have their hands in their day-to-day business. Almost everything is better localized because you can tailor fit it to your demographics. And like, let's be honest, does anyone here actually trust the federal government with their tax dollars? They overspend like crazy. They send it to Ukraine, to Israel. They're sending it everywhere. That's why people are not happy paying more taxes, because they know it's not even being used correctly. That's why I think we should do what Robert F. Kennedy said. He said we have to put the entire government budget on a blockchain. That way it's open source and anyone from the public can view it. So I think this guy is just naive for having way too much trust in the federal government.
Right, that's why we need more private institutions, such as Catholic schools. So we're in agreement here that the most dysfunctioning parts of our society are based in government control and the misallocation of resources.
Yeah, by the fact that we have really incompetent administrators.
But administrators will always be incompetent because they're run in an incentive structure that does not require competence for them to keep their job. That's why markets work, because the incentive structure is for good ideas to continue, and the lack thereof will be the termination of their services, or people will stop going there.
So what happens to the people who are incompetent, who can't do a job, who can't work? Should they be thrown out the street?
No, they should be taken care of by churches and community members and individuals.
Socialism.
No, that's voluntarism. There's a difference between socialism and voluntarism. Giving money to the church is not socialism. A synagogue helping poor people is not socialism. A mosque doing a food shelter, that's voluntary charitable transaction. Socialism is the involuntary extraction of wealth to fund social utilities.
But anyway, these charities are run by groups who accept contributions.
Individuals, though. Individuals that are all voluntary. Socialism is involuntary.
Yeah, you have to work together as a culture.
You know, but someone could leave the church. You can't leave the government extracting wealth from you. There's a difference.
You can leave the country too.
Of course you can. Yeah. Well, no, actually you can't. Some socialist countries you can't. In Cuba, they'll kill you.
Yeah.
So you can't.
What about Russia? What is Russia?
Russia is a crony fascist dictatorship now.
It is?
Yeah.
It's not a republic?
No, Russia's far from a republic. They might want to call them that, but they're a plutocratic, cronyist fascist dictatorship now. Putin is basically president for life. Their democracies are a sham. The oil and natural gas reserves are owned by an oligarchic, plutocratic class that is far from a market-based system.
Capitalist.
It's not capitalist, no. You know what the core part of capitalism is?
What?
A neutral court system that allows the adjudication of differences. Russia does not have that at all.
I mean, the conversation with this guy should have ended when he said, yeah, I trust the government. It reminds me of what Ronald Reagan said about the 8 most dangerous words in the English language. We are the government and we are here to help. Because when it comes down to it, you cannot trust the federal government to spend tax dollars efficiently. And if you can't trust them to do that, how can we trust them to have their fingers and hands in every aspect of human life? The more centralized all of this stuff is, the less efficiently that'll run. It's kind of scary that this man here is teaching the youth of America. Just think, young minds are being sculpted by this very man. And students will have no reason to question him because he's a professor. We're taught that they are knowledgeable about this subject and we should listen to them. It's just such a sham what the educational system has become today. And I'll give you an example in my own life. Back in high school, whenever I had a final, they were always somewhat challenging. But whenever I had a Regents, which was basically a final that was organized by the state deemed that you should know this material for this test. Every single time I took the Regents, it was so much easier than the final because they tried making it easier for other people in cities or whatnot. Basically what I'm saying is the federal government's got to back off on some issues and socialism is not the way. But yeah, let me know your thoughts on this down below. And if you enjoyed, make sure to smash that like, comment, subscribe, and wish you guys nothing but the best. Till next time.